Hello, I'm Sarah, and this is Serenade Makes. This week, I'm going to show you how I started my planner. Before we go a step further, if you're super into planning, super into bullet journaling, you may be looking for fancy stamps, washi tape, stickers. You're not going to find any of that on this. I am brand new to this. So I have very basic materials, and my spreads are all pretty basic. They took a lot of time. We'll get into that later. But the spreads themselves are all pretty basic. So if you're looking for something practical, something that is beginner friendly, because I'm a beginner and I did it, then stick around. So I have an existing journal that I've been using to get my life together. And I have a system that pretty much works for me. The only issue with it is I'm not very consistent with it. So I wanted something with a little bit more structure, a little more like, this is the place where you put Monday's schedule, so that way I would remember to schedule things. Otherwise, it's all pretty scrappy. So I wanted something that would be not only more visually appealing, but also a little more structured that would remind me to actually do the scheduling. In addition to the scheduling, I also have a few long-term goals that I want to keep track of, and I wanted a nice pictorial representation of those goals. I think that's the word, right? Pictorial. Basically I'm calling it a coloring book version of a tracker. So if you're familiar with bullet journaling or most planning, I think you've probably seen the monthly tracker spreads that are like, you X off the things that you've gotten done through the month. I wanted things that I could color in instead of just marking an X. So those are going to be some of the pages that I add besides the weekly spread. So let's get into my current system, how it's working for me, and how I transformed that into a more structured planner system. Let's do a little time warp back to a few days ago. So here's my journal and all the supplies that I have. Again, I'm just starting out in this whole planning / bullet journal adventure, so I've got some bare bones supplies. I know that if you are super into this stuff, you've got way more things than I do. We're just starting simple here. So I have my journal, I have a pen and pencil, scissors, ruler, watercolor pencils, various stickers, which I don't know how much I'm going to use, some colored pencils, and some sticky notes, which again, I don't know how much I'm going to use these, but I have them available. So let's talk about this journal. I got this from a Japanese stationery store in the airport. I think I'd heard good things about it, and really liked this journal when I saw it. I then proceeded to cover it with a ton of Steven Universe stickers that I got as a Christmas present, and I attached some elastic to it with some contact cement so that I could have something to keep it closed or to use as a bookmark. Now let's get into the inside and how I currently use my journal. Basically, it all looks like this. A bunch of sketches, some lists, some schedule things. The way that I usually use this, which has been helpful for me, which I'm going to try to continue to use in this more structured version, is I usually make a list of everything that I need to do and then use that list to then plan out a schedule. If I don't put times, I'm super unproductive. It's not necessarily that I stick to a schedule. It's more that thinking about every item in the list and how long it will practically take really helps me to not be overwhelmed and actually get things done. If I just look at a list of things to do, I sort of envision that it's going to take an eternity and end up getting too overwhelmed and not doing any of it. So thinking about item by item how long it would actually take and writing that down in a schedule helps me to see how much I can actually get done. And when I do that, I'm way more productive. And by that I mean I am productive at all. So I'm going to be taking that general concept and basically just adding some structure around it so that I can develop better habits and do it every day. I'm not sure how well this shows up on camera, but this is one of those journals that has the dots. So it's a graph type, but dots instead of lines, and there's a dot every ½ centimeter. So let's get into the time-lapse portion, where what took me 6 hours to do will take you like 10 minutes to watch. First, I sketched everything out in pencil because that way I could plan it better, and if I made any mistakes, I could erase it. This first page that I'm making is going to be a bunch of sunflowers, or daisies, or whatever type of flower these are that I'm drawing, to keep track of walking around. So I'm making one flower for every month of the rest of the year, and one petal for every day in that month. If I take a walk, I get to color in a petal. If I walk 10,000 steps, I get to use 2 colors on that petal. So the more I take walks, the more I get to color in these flowers. Apologies for all of these zooming in and zooming out. I left the autofocus on, and it caused a few issues. The next page that I'm filling out is because I'm setting a goal for myself to read 10 books by the end of the year. If you're a reader, I know 10 books in 8 months sounds ridiculous, but I'm trying to get back into the habit of reading, so 10 books by the end of the year is a good first step goal for me. So I'm just drawing out a couple little bookshelves with 10 books on them, so when I finish reading a book, I get to color in that book and write down the title on the spine. I'm also leaving enough space at the bottom that if I exceed the goal, if I read more than 10 books, then I can draw another bookshelf and put more books on it. The next page I'm doing, I am very excited about because it is for the book that I've started writing. The spine is 30 squares by 8 squares. So when I write 800 words, I get to fill in a 2 by 2 square. I hope that makes sense. So at the end, I should have about 48,000 words. I already have about 2,000 words of this, so that will come up to 50,000 words, which is about a novel. My goal is to complete this by the end of July because in June that starts Camp NaNoWriMo, which, if you're not familiar with it, I will leave a link down below in the description. It is a national novel writing month, but in the off season. You can follow the link if you are curious about it. This next page is just a May page. My weekly spreads take up 2 pages, so I needed something to fill in this blank page here. So I just decided to write May 2020. This was also my first time doing block lettering, which was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. And Gannon was a very good helper. Now to start on the weekly spread. I sketched this up in some scrap pages earlier in the journal, so I'm referring back to that to know how to draw the template. On this left-hand side is going to be where I'm going to keep a running to-do list. that I can then move over into the specific days and times that I'm going to get them done. And then these squares are the days of the week. I'm also adding in hours along the left-hand side. I don't know if I'm going to keep that going forward. I drew 2 more weeks in pencil, but I did not pen them in case I wanted to change it. Now we get to pen everything in. This all really started to come together once I had ink on it. Especially the flowers. I really love how these flowers turned out. You can tell I'm recounting all of the petals just to triple check that they have the right number of petals for that month. Then I erased all of my pencil marks. Wrote in the days. And now it's time to color! Coloring with colored pencil took a lot longer than I thought it would. This entire process took a lot longer than I thought it would. Like I said, it took me about 2.5 hours to sketch everything out in pencil, and then 2.5 hours to sketch it out in pen and color it in. And that doesn't include the probably 3 non-consecutive hours it took to plan everything out. So let's take a tour of my planner. I really love how all of these pages came out. These flowers, I am already so motivated to get out and walk because I really want to color in all of the petals and make this so bright and beautiful. Realistically, I know I'm not going to color in every single petal, and that's fine. But the more I do it, the more bright and beautiful it's going to be. I'm so excited. I'm also very excited about the books, just less excited than the flowers. And here's my novel tracking page with the egg on it. I'm calling this Project Egg because it makes me laugh. And the story's about a dragon egg. Because of course it is. But I'm also very excited to fill this one out because as I fill in these bottom rows, I'm going to also fill in the cover. So this will get more and more filled in the more complete the book gets, until finally I reach the top and have a completed first draft. The May page is whatever. It was a space taker. I needed something to fill that space before we get to the weekly spread. I did use my watercolor pencils to color in the days of the week just to get a little splash of color on there, just so it's not black and white. And as you can tell, I've already started to use it. It's been very helpful. I also included on the right side a weekly tracker for some of the things that I want to keep track of, such as how often I'm doing laundry, dishes, whether or not I'm showering every day, brushing my teeth every day, because let's be real, I'm sitting here at my home by myself, not leaving, so I need to keep track of how often I'm showering and brushing my teeth. But I also am keeping track of whether or not I'm doing yoga and reading and practicing piano, all those things. I prefer a weekly tracker as opposed to a monthly tracker because I like the feeling of if I don't have a very good week, I can flip the page and I'm starting fresh, rather than a full month where if I miss a few days or miss a week, then that's just gonna keep reminding me that I missed that week for the entire month. I'd rather flip the page and start fresh. So, did this take a very long time to set up? Yes, but it was mostly that flower page that took so long, and some of those other big pages. The weekly spread is not going to take me that long to set up every week, as long as I devote a little bit of time to it. But again, I did keep it in pencil for future weeks, in case I don't like it and want to switch up the format. So there we go, there's my planner. If you're super into planning, and you have some particular spreads that you really enjoy, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see your ideas. I'd love to get more ideas, more inspiration for future planning pages. Also, if you like this video and you want to get more updates on how my planning is going, give me a like so that I know that this is the kind of content you like to see. Also subscribe if you want to see more making videos, and follow me on Twitch if you'd like to see me make things in real time and chat with me. This past week, I made my cat Gannon a Mae Borowski costume from Night in the Woods. He was a good sport, but he hated it. If you have any ideas for future projects that you'd like to see me make, please tag me on
twitter.com
@SerenadeMakes, and I will see you next week. Bye!